Hi everyone. Today we're going to show you how to build lightweight cabinets for your RV renovations. One of the first things you want to decide when you're doing your renovation, do you want to try to repurpose the existing doors and make those work with your new cabinets, or if you're going to order new doors. We like to try to repurpose whenever possible. Sometimes we put in all new doors, but one of the first things you want to decide is what type of hinge you want to use. So this is a European hidden hinge, so when the door is closed, you don't see any hardware. That's my favorite style to use, but you can also use a surface mounted hinge as well. That's a little easier to install, doesn't take as many tools. So once you've completed your demo, your next step is to determine what your new cabinet layout is going to look like. And your new cabinet layout is going to tell you whether or not you can repurpose your doors or not. Some situations you can, and some situations you just can't. The doors just don't fit. For this example today, we're going to reuse a couple of existing doors that we took out of a renovation and build the cabinet to fit these doors. So first thing you want to determine is your hinge overlay. If you're going to use the hidden hinges, they come in 3/4 and 1/2 inch overlay. So when you're measuring up for your cabinet, you're going to measure across, then you're going to deduct for your overlay. Whether it's a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch, you take that off of each side. That determines the opening of your cabinet. So the most important thing when you're doing new cabinets in your RV renovation is planning. I can't stress it enough. We like to do a lot of drawings like these, and I also go into the RV renovation and I'll draw lines on the wall, and I'll actually draw out my doors where they're going to go on the wall and how it's all going to fit. And then I can kind of stand back and look at it and make sure that that's the layout that I want and it's going to fit. So this example today, it's just going to be a single cabinet, and this is an example of a drawing that I'll do. So this is my face frame. You want to build your face frame first and then build the rest of the cabinet to fit. When you're building a face frame, you want to make sure that your outside pieces, your verticals, run all the way top to bottom, and then your horizontal pieces butt into these. And we're going to show you how to connect that all together in a few minutes here. All right, so I've got all the pieces cut for my face frame. When I build face frame, I like to use a finger joint pine pre-primed if I'm gonna paint my cabinets. Super lightweight stuff, pretty durable, makes for a good cabinet. So I've cut all my pieces just like I had in my drawing. I got them mocked up here. I wanna double check all my dimensions in here and make sure everything's gonna fit. We do a larger piece at the top when we build the face frame, and this is another part of the planning stage. You got to make sure that when you build your cabinet, and if it's tight to the ceiling, that your door swing is not going to hit anything like a speaker or a light fixture that's mounted to the ceiling. And one super important thing, we use these narrow face frames when we're using European hinges because it makes everything fit nice and tight together, and it just looks really good, really clean. But if you're going to use these surface mounted hinges, you got to make sure in your planning stage, that's why I say that the planning is so important. If you're going to use this style hinge and you have another door next to it, you got to make sure that your face frame is wide enough to accommodate that other hinge so that they're not crammed together and interferes with the operation of your doors. All right, so here's my favorite part. Let's talk tools. So here's the tools you're going to need. These are the must-haves for building cabinets. You're going to need a pocket hole jig. All these parts are part of the pocket hole jig. You're going to need your drills. You're going to need a countersink bit. If you're not using a table saw, you can use your skill saw to cut your panels, nail gun, and then this is the jig you're going to need if you're going to use the hidden hinges. So this is your template to mark your hinge location, and then the drill bit you need to drill the holes for those hinges. All right, so now that we've double checked all our measurements and everything's good, now we're ready to start building. So the first thing we're going to do is drill our pocket holes in our face frame. I put an X on the side that I want to drill into, so usually I'll just select the worst side of the material and use that for the back of my face frame. And I do these X's so that when I'm drilling my holes, I don't accidentally drill the wrong side. So here we go. right, I got all my holes drilled and I'm ready to assemble. So I've got the face frame flipped over so it's face down. You do the assembly with it face down. I've marked all my back sides with an X just so I don't accidentally have something flip backwards when I'm doing my assembly. So your next step is clamp it in place first. Make sure it's lined up exactly straight. All right, it's clamped in place. It's flush on the bottom. Now we just install our screws. All right, so now we're gonna start building our sides and bottom for our cabinet box to build our box. So I'm using pine. Use a combination of 3/4 square and 1x2 to build all the framing for the box itself, and I'll show you how we do that here in a few minutes. But I calculated the size I want to build this, so I'm going to build, it's going to have a bottom, and it's going to have 2 sides, and then it's going to have a shelf in the middle, which we haven't cut yet. So what I do is I measure this so that I have enough room for my panel that's going to go on the side here, and leave a little bit of a reveal from the face frame. It just makes for a really nice finished look there. So we've made our framework pieces. We've got a piece for the bottom, a piece for our middle shelf, and then we've got a piece for both sides. So we used finish nails to nail the framework together first, and then we countersunk and screwed everything together. So it's really important to countersink so these are flush so they don't interfere with your assembly in your cabinet. But everything's screwed together, makes a super strong frame. And this one's gonna go like this. This one's gonna go here in the middle, and then our framework's gonna go on the side, and we're gonna attach it to the face frame. Something like that. Okay, so now we're getting our framework onto our face frame, and this is the bottom of our cabinet, this is the top. We don't need a piece on top, but I'll show you later. We're gonna put some pieces on there where you can attach it to the ceiling. So we've got an equal amount of reveal all the way around. I wanna put my middle shelf in, and I want it exactly in the center of this cabinet. You can put them anywhere you like. For this example, we're just gonna put it in the center. So I've got 22¼ inches here. So I'm going to split that in half, and that's 11 1/8. That's the center. I'll mark this side over here the same. And then we want to come up 3/8 of an inch to find the edge of our framework. Now at this point, I want to go ahead and attach this framework to the face frame. So I'm going to get my reveal measured all the way around, 1/4 of an inch on all sides. And I want to go ahead and drive some nails into this. And later we're going to add some screws. I'm using an 1¼ inch nail, so I'm kind of angling the nail gun a little bit just in case, so if it drives the nail in a little deep, it won't come through the face frame. All right, so now that I've got my shelf located exactly where I want, I'm going to add a block here so that I can reinforce that shelf with some screws and nails. Okay, now I've got all my holes drilled here and countersunk. On these, I'm not going to countersink them really deep. It doesn't matter if the screw head sticks up a little bit. And what I don't want is I don't want the screw to go so deep that it comes through the front of our face frame. So for here, I just countersunk just a little bit. And this is going to attach this framework to the face frame and make this whole thing super solid. So we'll attach these with the 1¼ inch screws. Got a super solid cabinet. Now we can start cutting and installing all our panels. All right, so we got our bottom and side panels cut right now. So bottom panel I cut flush to our framework, and then the side panel I want to overlap the bottom panel so you don't see the joint on the side. Because later I'm gonna fill this and sand this in here, and when I paint it up, you won't even be able to tell there's a joint there. So when we install this cabinet, we want to have a lot of attachment points just so it's solid against the wall. So this is all screwed together, and that's the reason why we all screw it together. So you have several attachment points through here. You can attach here at each shelf, this side as well. And then I'm going to put another piece on the back side of here so it can be attached to the ceiling and make it really solid. So this piece will go in here like this. This gets nailed and screwed to the face frame, and then in turn it can be screwed to the ceiling when you install it. So we don't want to see this raw edge of our shelf. So I'm going to put a piece of this face frame in here. You can do this two ways. You can pocket hole screw this when you first build your face frame. If you already know in advance exactly where you want your shelf, I choose most of the time to do it afterwards. That way, if I decide later that I want to make a shelf higher or lower to accommodate something specific like a coffee maker, I can do that later on without having to worry about that. So I already marked where I want it to go. The little pencil marks there. I got it pretty tight to fit. You want it pretty snug in there. Just going to shoot a couple of nails into that from the back side. Going to go ahead and cut our inside pieces for here. I'm going to use a piece of pre-finished material, this white pre-finish for the inside of my cabinet, and those get just glued in. So I'm going to pre-cut all of them, but we're not going to install them right now because we want to get the cabinet on the wall, and we want to use all these attachment points in here to attach it to the wall, and the attachment point up here to this piece we added to the ceiling. And then once it's all in there, then I can get my pieces in through the opening, and then I can glue them in here, and we'll have a nice clean white inside finish, no paint, so we don't have to worry about the paint rubbing off inside there. And then you can also, once you get the cabinet mounted, you can also use this space if you want to put lights underneath. You can use this to run wires through, and then when you put your finished piece, hides all the wires. Oh, and I almost forgot, I have to introduce my helper. Come here, Sonny. There you go. Good boy. So we got our interior panels cut for the inside of the cabinet, but just as a reminder, you want to install the cabinet first. And the reason why is because you have all your attachment points here that are going to get covered up by your interior panels, but you've got a lot of area to attach, and it's going to make this super solid when it's installed. And then you've also got this piece up here that you can drill through and attach to the ceiling as well. So then when you get that all done, these just go in with a little bit of glue. Put your glue in first. Make sure you run any wires that you need in there first. This just slips through the opening. That one goes in like that. And then that there. And the best part is, this is super light, only weighs a few pounds. All right, my favorite part, installing the doors, because that means we're almost finished. Now, normally we will install the doors after we put the cabinets in, but since this one's not actually getting installed, this is just our example or our sample. I'm gonna install these doors out here so we can see what the finished cabinet is gonna look like. All right, here's our finished cabinet. I really like the way it looks with the European hinges. You don't see any exposed hardware. They have several points of adjustment to help you get your doors lined up and your reveals nice and straight. And again, on this interior shelf, you know, that's what the great thing is about custom building these cabinets. You can put the shelf anywhere you want it. You can accommodate taller items. You could put 2 shelves in a cabinet if you had smaller things. That's what makes it so great, so versatile, as you can customize it to your needs.